In this lab, we're going to explore how to configure Active Directory on our Windows Server 22 VM and how to join our Windows 10 VM to that domain and then do some domain settings to help in user access and user control. When you begin, you'll need to make sure that your Windows 10 and Windows Server are all connected to the same pfSense interface. Okay, so both will need to be put onto the pfSense network for this to work, okay? To begin, we're going to go to Manage, Add Roles and Features. We're going to hit Next a few times till we get to our server roles. And we're going to add Active Directory domain services and add the features as well. This will allow us to handle a single long-arm process throughout our domain. Want to just hit Next a few times to go to the confirmation screen. We're going to check Restart if required. And then click Install, and Windows Server will handle the entire install process. This will take a bit of time, so I'm going to pause and we'll come back when it's done. Alrighty, so we have successfully installed Active Directory, so we'll hit close. We're going to go up here to our flag, going to click on it, and we're going to click promote this to our domain controller, or basically the server that controls the domain. We're going to add a new first, and I want you to do your last name dot local. Okay, last name dot local. I'm going to click next. We're going to just let it function at a Server 2016 level, and we're going to give it a restore password. Hit next. We're not going to do any DNS delegation since we're the only server. It's going to automatically create a NetBIOS name just in case there's any legacy components on the network. Those will just take a few seconds. There it is. We'll click next. It's going to give us a database folder, a log files folder, and then our sysvol folder in case we need them in the future. It's going to tell us what it's going to do exactly. And then if we want to automate it, we could export this as a PowerShell script. And hold up 1 second. Okay, another step we want to do before we actually do that domain checking is we want to go to Manage, remove roles and features. And we'll want to go down to our certificate services and actually uncheck it to remove that. Oh, sorry. We need to remove. Let's find that one more time. You must install the web first. Okay, cool. No problemo. We just need to uninstall our web server, and then we can do this as well. Okay, they want to do an order. So we remove your web server first. And restart if required. And once we remove our web server, we'll remove our certificate server, and then we can install Active Directory. Sorry. Windows can be very picky on what services want at the exact same time. So we're going to just uninstall the pieces that would exist step by step. And then we'll go ahead and make our Active Directory server. So this will take some time, and I'll come back when it's done. Alright, my server just rebooted, and now it's finishing up the removal process. It's now done. So we're going to now go to Manage, Remove again. And this time we're going to get rid of our certificate services. Which next again, we start if required, and click Remove. This should be a bit quicker than last time, but it might have to restart again. So I'll go ahead and pause it and let you know what happened. Alrighty, no pause needed this time for removing it, as it is all done. We're going to now go to Manage, Add Roles and Features, and now we're going to attempt to also once again click the flag and promote the server to the domain controller. So add a new first. Once again, do your last name dot local, and we'll go through these steps again, like we just did before. So I'm gonna pause the recording and I'll meet you back at the prerequisite check. Alrighty, so now the prerequisites all good to go. So we'll go ahead and click install. It is going to give us some warnings that we don't have the most secure settings installed by default, which is fine with us. We're just testing. But it's good to know in case you're playing this in a network. You could get some quick checks. So this will take a bit to install. So it's just going to go over all the general settings, which is fine. It's going to set up its DNS. It's going to install the group policy management console. And then it should be almost all done. You can see exactly what it's doing up here, by the way, in case you're curious. Alright, we're all done. We're going to be signed out now, since we're now the domain controller. So what we'll need to do now is reboot the computer. So we're going to go to our restart. And there it goes. And we will now log in with our new admin account. Admin or instructor or whatever your account named at your last name.local. And that's step 1 done of the lab. It's a bit longer this time. It's just some setup. So I'm going to let this finish doing all of its own Windows stuff. You'll only watch Windows do Windows. And I'll get you all back when we get to the install. Alright, so we're now going to log back in. And we are now on our domain server, ready to go. But now we need to add our Windows client to our domain. So to do that, we're going to open up command prompt and get our IP address. So I'll just do an IP config. And note our IP address, because this is what the Windows client needs to be pointed to. Now, normally, if we had a DNS server set up on the network, like on our router or on a designated one that the router distributes, you wouldn't have to do this step. But since we are missing some of that infrastructure, we'll have to literally point Windows into where our domain is. So I'm going to go to our Windows 10 machine. I'm going to go to our adapter settings. I'm going to go to our properties of our adapter, to the v4, and I'm going to say, look here for your DNS information, which is my domain server. Now that Windows has literally been pointed to it, we can go to join a, go ahead and open control panel, make this easier. And then in the search bar, type in domain. Join a domain. You'll see system properties pop up. And you'll go over to rename this computer, we'll change it to a domain. We'll click change domain, and you'll do your last name .local. And then it's should be default, if I can spell it quickly, administrator, the built-in one. Oh, excuse me. And then your previous password. And then it's welcomes you to the domain. You'll click OK, and then you'll have to restart Windows 10. And that's how you join Windows 10 to the domain. Now we can do some really cool stuff. So in the top right, we're going to go to Tools, and we're going to go to Active Directories, Users, and Computers. Here's where we can manage all, if we expand our domain, here's where we can do all of our object editing. Everything in a domain is an object, so everything can be assigned, change permissions, etc. So in our users here, you can see we have all these built-in users, including our built-in administrator. What I'm going to do here is right-click inside the users folder and make a new user. I'm going to call this user AD student or AD student at allen.local. So this is our Active Directory student account. I'm going to give them a temp password. And normally you would have this change at login, but I'm just going to uncheck that for each of the lab and make it with the password never expires as well. Okay. So now that we have this test student, I'm also going to right click over on Allen.local. So yours would be your last name.local, the domain. And I'm going to click new organizational unit. Organizational units look like folders, but they're just things that that we can assign properties to. So similar to folders, I could have like a sales OU. I could have a Chicago OU. Just ways to largely group units together. And I'm going to call this one students. So now down here you can see I have the students folder. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to my tools and go to group policy management. This is how I can change how people interact with the computer. I'm going to expand my forest, expand my domains, expand Allen.local. You can now see here I also have my students OU in here as well if I wanted to apply things to my students OU. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to right click students OU and click create a policy object and link it here. A group policy object is similar to local security policy or group policy on a local computer, to where I can change different Windows admin settings at a managerial central level. So whatever I change on here, anything within the students group gets applied to. So I'll create a GPO from this. I'm going to call this remove pinned. And now we're going to right click and edit this GPO. And we're going to go down to computer configuration, policies, admin templates, start menu and taskbar. And we are going to remove, give me 1 second to find it. Alrighty, my apologies. It is under user configuration. So user configuration, policies, admin templates, and we're going to do start menu and taskbar, scroll to the bottom, remove pin programs from the taskbar, and we're going to enable this, which will pin programs are prevented from being shown on the taskbar. User cannot pin programs to the taskbar. Apply and OK. So now we've changed that setting for anyone within the student's organizational unit. What we're going to do now is I'm actually going to change this default domain policy, which affects everyone on the any authenticated user on the network. I'm going to right click and edit it. The default one is good for changing your password requirements. So I'll go to computer, policies, Windows settings, security settings, account policies, password policy. And for password age, this is good by default, but I'm going to set it to 0 so I don't have to worry about this in the future. So password will expire. I don't do that in real life, but I'm just doing it to make it easier for us. But if I go to minimum password length, I'm going to set this to 14 characters. And I'm going to test that in a second if that's allowed. And they must all be complex enough as well. So after that's been set, we've done this on a default, so this should affect everyone. What we're going to do now is add our test user. If we go back here to our users and computers, we're going to add our AD student to the student's OU. So now AD student is part of the student's OU. So they are subject to the remove pin GPO. So we're going to test this now. We're going to give our Windows a quick reboot so it can play all of our new policies. And we're going to log in as our AD student and see if they can mess with the taskbar. It may work, it may not work. That setting might be too old for it to affect modern Windows, but that would be the proper steps. So we're going to go down to other user, type in AD student. We're then going to type in our password. and it's going to do first time setup. So I'll skip past this real quick. All right, Windows has booted. As we can see, all taskbar at the very bottom. And I'll go ahead and go to personalize and make this a bit bigger for you all. Sign up, personalize, display settings, and I'll make this a bit bigger for you all. You can see down here we have no tasks on our taskbar. Let's see if I can add Chrome to it. Oh, nope. You can see I'm getting no image. So our group policy for our students OU is working fully as intended. Great. However, there's still one more thing we need to test as well. We need to test to see if our new default domain policy is being enforced with our character limits. So I'm going to do Control-Alt-Delete, and I'm going to change my password. And, oh, excuse me. I'm going to do, one second, let me make sure it's doing this correctly. I'm going to do a secure password that is only 10 characters. So I'm doing this password, which is secure, but does not quite meet length requirements because it is 10 characters, but it needs to be 14. So let's see if it lets me change it to this password. Hit enter. It allows me to change it. Ah! I know that the password does not meet the complexity requirements. So let me type in my old one again. And I'm gonna give it some more. I'm gonna give it 4 more characters. There we go. That's well over the character requirements. So we'll try that again. Looks good. So now this one's over 14 characters. So let's see if it lets me change it. Oh, it might be our history actually. 1 second. Alrighty. Apparently, I just am not good at counting. But I was able to change the password finally. By doing a 14 or more character password. So hit OK, and we'll now log back again. So that is how you can use group policies, and you could do way more. You could, make a policy, an OU inside of an OU, and you can start stacking them. You can start doing priority orders. You can start doing whole groups instead of individual people. So you might have a OU called students, but then like the Riverside campus, or you might have sales, and you might be do different OUs per different groups as well. So this goes very deep, and it's something you really like. You would love the Silver Admin class next door as well. If you have any questions, let me know.